The last few months have been, well, really crazy. And I think all of us have experienced the challenges, the frustrations, and even some of the hardships that this season has brought. It has certainly brought with it a lot of anxiety. And now this school is starting back, and schools and educators are trying to figure out what classrooms and online learning looks like. And parents are trying to make the best decisions for their families. Well, stress levels are what seems like an all-time high. We want you to know that you're not alone. We're here for you. We are praying for you. And we want to support you through this season. One of our core values as a church is that we partner with families to help raise up a generation of world changers. And so we asked our dear friend Jennifer Ferguson to take some time and share with us a little about anxiety in this season, what signs to look for, how to deal with it, and how to be helpful through it. We hope you enjoy this video, that it's encouraging and helpful as we're all navigating these uncharted waters. And also be sure to like and share this video so that we can help encourage others as well.
I'm Jennifer Ferguson, a licensed mental health professional in private practice here in Jacksonville, Florida. I work primarily with kids, teens, couples, and adults. And I want to talk to you today about the mental health pandemic that we're observing and experiencing in the mental health and healthcare field. Particularly, I want to talk about anxiety and some things around teens and young adults, and some things for you to be aware of and things that you can do to help. On the screen right now is a suicide hotline number. If you're watching this, you can call anytime, 24/7. You can call now, and if you need to call back in 5 hours, 5 minutes, they're available for you. So don't hesitate to call if you need to talk to someone now. I want to share a little bit about some trends that we have observed. Columbia University just did some research about Google searches. And as we all know, Google does kind of keep track of these kinds of things. And so what they noticed was there was an increase in March with financial concerns, financial worries, and these types of things. And they have looked at the data going back for quite a while. And one of the things that is tied to this very strongly is it's a precursor for suicidal behaviors and choices. And so it's something that we're seeing in the mental health field, and it's something that we want to take the time and let you know that anxiety is a big contributor to this. One of the things that we also know based off this research from Columbia University is that individuals that have had some history with anxiety or loneliness or sadness or even more significant mental health concerns and symptoms, these are individuals that are more at risk for suicidal types of things. And I'm not trying to scare you by kind of starting off with this, but one of the things that I've noticed, and one of the things that is going on, is that there's definitely an increase right now in acting out self-harm, and particularly for adolescents and college students. We're seeing a lot of kids that are just struggling right now because of the length of time and the way that this is impacting. So it's not to scare you, it's just to make you aware so that you can understand that sometimes it doesn't always show up as self-harm. It doesn't always show up as someone coming out and saying, particularly a student, they may say to you, "Oh, I'm fine. How are you doing?" And then you find out that they're hiding something or they're keeping something secretive from you. Every person and personality copes differently. And so I want to share some of those things for you, whether you are a parent, a caregiver, an educator, a professional, or just someone that has someone in your life that you care about. What we notice is a loss of interest. So if you see withdrawing, isolating, spending lots of time by themselves in rooms, those are some things to take notice of. So if there was things that they always wanted to do, they love to do, and now they're no longer interested in participating. They don't want to do it. They seem blah about it. That's something to kind of take note of as well. If you see an increase in sleep or a decrease in sleep. Also, if there's concerns about headaches, stomach aches, these are all indicators of stress and anxiety. Sometimes there'll be difficulty focusing, forgetfulness, not being able to remember things. They seem to not really be engaged in what you're saying. Some other ways that we see with students sometimes, and I've had this already happen in my practice. I've had kids and teens, even college students that I have been working with for years that were doing pretty well, you know, worked on something, felt like they had it, and they're like, I don't know why I'm struggling with this again. I thought I had this. Well, that's how these things work. Stress, and, you know, with the COVID-19 being anywhere and everywhere and completely changing our lives, it's pretty difficult to always know or to understand even what's going on. As much as we tell ourselves, I've got this, I'm not that stressed. But I've had a lot of students reach out to me from closets, garages, cars, in their bathroom, their back porches, you name it. I've had students reach out to me, which is great, but not every student has those type of relationships or has a relationship with a mental health professional so they can get some of the support that they need. So the other thing that we see is sometimes they act out, and that may show up as they post things on social media that's somewhat different than the boundaries that you have for them and the choices and the expectations, and you find out that they may be posting things to get attention. They may be posting things that are somewhat shocking, or they may be posting things crying out for help or sadness or loneliness. But then they just told you, you know, the night before that they're doing just fine. So these are some things that you may find out that they're keeping some things secretive, they're doing some things, they're doing things with friends that they're not telling you that they're doing, and they're doing a lot of things with social media that may not be helping them, but they really just don't know really what's even going on with them or necessarily what they want to do. So the big thing with students is they really need to know that their world is okay. They need, they need that structure. They need to have consistency, and they need to not kind of know what to expect. And right now, we don't know what to expect. And they were created to connect with their peers and their friends, and they want to listen to them sometimes more than they want to listen to parents. And developmentally, that's what's to be expected. But it's pretty tough as a parent or someone that is trying to help to always know what to do when you feel like you're asking the right questions. So these are some things to keep in mind. The one thing I want to say too is that if there's any real concerns in terms of symptoms or some of the things I've described, these concerns, do not hesitate to contact a mental health professional. If you have insurance, you can go online, you can call them, and they can give you a list of providers that are close to where you are and what their specializations are. Don't hesitate to get help, ask questions, seek out a professional. Even if your student or your child says that they're not interested in that, you as a parent want to understand yourself. You want to get some help and support, and even help as a parent can also have a huge impact on your student. So we talked about some things to keep in mind, some things to be looking out for with your student in terms of anxiety and some depression. So the next thing is, well, what are some things that I can do? And so I want to say, obviously, if you are looking for support, don't hesitate to reach out to a professional. Don't hesitate to contact your insurance if you have insurance to find out the list of providers. Just having someone to talk to talk it out, get some suggestions and more specific feedback for a particular child or student would probably be immensely helpful, because again, as the parent, the more that you are confident and you feel as if you kind of know what you're doing, the more likely you are to respond in a way that's going to create reassurance for your student and your child. So here's some things I want you to kind of consider. And we talk about, well, what can I do? The first thing is to start with yourself. Check in with yourself. And I want you to kind of be mindful of, well, how am I doing? What am I feeling? Am I stressed? Am I anxious? Am I having a hard time? And all of us have been affected in some ways, and some of us tremendously, by COVID-19 and what is now kind of turning into a mental health pandemic, because this is going on for quite a while now, and it's impacted every aspect of our lives. And so you want to start with yourself. You want to kind of see, okay, well, am I coping well? Am I doing some self-care? Am I modeling for myself, my family, and particularly my children, positive coping skills, positive self-talk? And am I demonstrating for them the confidence and the choices that are also going to show for them what they can do? One of the things I want to talk about with parents that I have heard from a lot of students is that parents are stressed. You've got work, financial concerns. How are you going to, take care of your kids while you're trying to work, or you have this or that? And so sometimes when you're talking about these, when you're riding in the car with a family member or a friend, and you think that your kids have their buds in their ears, or they're off doing something, that they're not hearing what you're saying. And in actuality, they are. And so that's something I want you to be mindful of and be very intentional about how you talk to yourself, how you talk to your kids and students, and be very mindful about what's going on when they're even in the house. And of course, that's pretty much how it's rolling these days. So it can be a little bit of a challenge to manage all that. But I want you to kind of start with yourself and check in with yourself first. I want to talk about specifically some things that help students with some of the anxiety. Some of the anxiety is coming from, being at home and trying to do learning, or you're entering now that school is resuming again and you're not sure what's going to happen. And so there's a lot of free time and a lot of downtime. And so you want to have boundaries. You want to kind of know, well, what am I actually expecting of myself? What am I actually expecting of my student? Are these realistic expectations and boundaries? And are they clear? Do I know what they are? Do my kids know what they are? Are they clear to them? And so you want to kind of be mindful. I always encourage people to write them out, and then write what their expectations are, and write what the positive and the not so positive consequences are, so everybody's on the same page. Have a schedule and have a calendar with purpose. Sit down and talk about, well, what are some things that you want to do? What are some things you haven't even thought about in a while, but you want to accomplish? And it may take some research, it may take some time, but build in time for exercise, build in time, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about social connection and limiting electronics and getting away from that, getting away from video games and some of those things. And so you want to build in face-to-face, virtually experiences, or healthy social distancing, so that you can provide those kinds of things that are going to move away from anxiety and some of that withdrawal and isolation and sadness that we're seeing with a lot of students. So one of the things you can do too is, now that school is starting back, whether it's virtually or whether you're actually going to a classroom, is you want to know who are the guidance counselors, who are the counselors, who are people that my kids or students who can they talk to? So just find out for yourself. You may not know where their office is, what their email, their name, number. Find out that, touch base with them. If your child is going to school on campus, just swing by and say, hey, can I introduce myself and my child or children, and provide that information to your kids. Even though they're like, well, I don't want to talk to them. I don't have anything to say to them. You never know what's going to happen. And if they have that in their backpack or in some way that they can access it, then if they need that, they'll already have that connection and that information. And so utilize those resources. I would also say that if you have any concerns about anxiety, about even, stronger concerns about the mental health of yourself or students, don't hesitate. You can also contact your pediatrician. They can also make some recommendations for referrals. You want to limit electronics. The research is pretty strong about the more time that we spend on social media and actually have screen time, the more that people actually rate themselves as sad or feeling insecure or less confident. And particularly for students, this is a big deal because relationships with their peers, and because they don't feel connected, they kind of feel like they're missing out. This can be a contributor to them starting to feel anxious and starting to feel like they're missing out and things are not going well. So it kind of seems counterintuitive because I've heard from a lot of parents who are like, well, my kids are bored, or they really like to do that. And there's actually also research about actually just the screens and the lights that they emit and what they do to the brain. Those actually also cause people to have more anxiety as well. So you want to keep that in mind. You want to have specific boundaries and limitations. One of the things that I talked about before is that some of the kind of acting out or some of the ways that kids are coping is they're going on social media and doing some things either for attention or be shocking or just because they're bored. I hear that a lot. And so we want to have, again, you want to have expectations. You want to have a calendar. You want to set some things up so that they can connect. So, virtually. So if they have family, grandparents, coaches, leaders at church and scouts and sports, you want to encourage them to set up a virtual video. One of the things that we're finding is, just texting or looking at things from a passive point of view actually increases anxiety and depression. But when individuals actually engage and they can see faces and they can have conversations and interact, those are wonderful ways to help still feel connected. And think outside the box, not just their friends, but other people that you think are very positive role models. You want to be as positive as possible. You want to create as much opportunity and make it safe and make it healthy to do these different ways of connecting that are a little bit temporary. Some of the things that some of the students that I work with that they have done is they have had like Netflix watching parties, trivia nights, they've done book clubs, they've had, they do dance stuff, so instead of TikTok, they actually participate and teach each other and do the routines together. You can play Battleship. You can do, chess. There's a lot of different things, photography, sharing projects and different things like that, even escape rooms. There's all kinds of things that if we're intentional, if we're kind of mindful, and connecting with people that are not just their peers. Again, I'm saying it again. I just think it's so important for them to have that diversity with the people that they're talking to, and that they're being supportive and encouraging that. The other thing you want to do is you want to have family game nights. You want to have fun as a family. You do want to kind of talk about how everybody's doing. You do want to check in, whether it's daily, and like what was the best thing that happened to you, what was the not so good thing, and you want to make it fun. You don't want to always make it super serious, so that if they're having a difficult time talking about what's going on with them, that at least they are getting in the practice, they're getting used to it, and it's safe and it's comfortable for them to be themselves. So one of the things I also encourage is, if you have some of these concerns, and just about every family on every part of the world is going through this, you want to just sit down and talk about it. You want to make it okay. You want to be sort of silly. And the other thing is, if your student or your child is like, I'm good or fine, the shoulder shrug, I'm fine, it's okay. You just want to make it okay for them to be themselves. And if you do that on a regular basis and practice it, it's going to invite them to be themselves. And they may have to take some time and think about it. They may have to kind of ponder, well, now that you mention it. And so you just want to create opportunities. You want to make it safe. You want to make it okay for them to be themselves. As parents, we do want the best. We do tend to kind of put some expectations that are not necessarily realistic, and they're not necessarily easy for kids to come out and say, well, I didn't make a great choice, or actually, I'm struggling. I don't know how to say that. And that's not usually what kids and teens say. And so you want to make it okay as possible for them to be themselves, and for them not to be perfect. And when they do share things, and when they do open up, and sometimes what they'll do too is they'll share a few things, or you'll notice something with, that's going on, like some of the things I talked about previously. And they'll say, actually, I probably would like to talk to someone. So if they don't want to talk to you as the parent, don't take that as a not so good thing, or personally, or I'm not a good parent. That is developmentally normal and appropriate. It's normal for your kids to want to hear the same thing you just told them the day before, and someone else says it. And so just recognize that, be aware of that. The other thing I want to talk about as well is exercise. YouTube has so many ways, creative ways to get exercise. And exercise is one of the best ways to kind of work against the biochemistry of anxiety. And so I want to add that in there as well, because it's a natural way to work against that. And it also encourages, if you talk about it, or if your student, if you can do it as a family, or they can social distance and do some stuff, there's a lot of opportunity for that as well. All right, so those are some suggestions and possible strategies to help you manage anxiety with yourself and with your family during the pandemic.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video presentation. I hope that it's encouraged you and that you've found the information to be helpful for you. Don't forget to like and share this video so that we can reach others who are dealing with anxiety as well. We know these are difficult times. We want you to know that you're not alone. We would love to be able to pray for you this week. So please take a minute to let us know in the comments or at chetscreek.com/prayer how we can be praying for you and your family specifically. So thanks again for watching, and a special thanks to Jennifer Ferguson for taking the time to share with us this valuable information.